Hey guys, it's Sin from SinHardware.com, and today I have a little treat for you guys. Today I'm looking at the Gigabyte GA Z170X Gaming G1, and this is a prototype from Gigabyte. And as you can see, well, you've probably already seen pictures on the internet. Gigabyte's going with all new white and red theme. They have a shield on the I/O, covering up some of the audio with a few red highlights. PCH is covered, as are the SATA and eSATA ports. The main VRM is a 16 plus 4 plus a bunch of little other phases. I'll go over it more when NDA is up. Let me zoom in a little bit on the VRM. Now, there are a few things I can tell you. First of all, I can tell you, just like previous Gigabyte generation boards, this one is powered by International Rectifier's digital PWM. It is a brand new model, and I don't really want to get into it because, I don't even know exactly what it is, but they are using the IR power phases. I think they're IR3553 just because the memory VR uses the IR3553, and it kind of makes sense due to spacing requirements and restrictions. They're using their 10K black capacitors from Chemicon. OC features are still here, so I'm going to start up from the VRM area and go around the board like usual. First of all, the heatsink has water cooling inserts, and these are threaded. Looks like 1/4 of an inch ID or OD ID. Anyways, going around here, there is a fan connector here, and I can spot two 4-pins here. One says system, and it looks like it's for an LED. Since there's 4 pins, I could guess it's RGB LED. And another thing I'll go over later is that this board is using RGB LEDs, so you will be able to change the color of the LEDs all over the board, and there are a lot of them. Fan connectors here, normal 8-pin. Moving over, we have a CPU fan, a CPU optional fan for like a pump or something for all-in-one cooler. Then we have a postcode display, power button, reset and clear CMOS, and there's a new button here. Let me move the board around a little bit for you. It says Eco, and Eco is a power saving mode. So when you use Eco, you should be able to save some power if that's important to you. Then we have an overclocking button, and the overclocking button should provide a modest yet pretty decent overclock. There's a G1 gaming logo here with 2 racing stripes, and those should light up as well. There are LEDs on the underside to support that. Memory VRM, like I said before, is controlled by IR, and there's 2 phases for the main DRAM and 1 phase for VPP. And if you're wondering what VPP is and you haven't read any X99 reviews, VPP is the reline voltage for DDR4. It helps power saving modes, so it's kind of like a VTT voltage. Anyways, 2 USB 3.0, and it does seem like there's a hub here, so I guess I'll figure out later on, but there's tons of connectivity from the PCH. Now this is a new next generation board, so there's I think a lot more newer connectivity. According to the spec sheet, since I don't want to break NDA, you read a few things that are interesting before we go over that. First of all, PCIe Gen 3 4X M.2 connector with up to 32 gigabytes of transfer rate, gigabits. But then this is even more interesting. 3 SATA Express connectors up to 16 gigabits data transfer. Now we know from the past, standard SATA Express is basically PCIe over SATA, and basically each lane of PCIe 3.0 is 8 gigabits per second. Each lane of PCIe 2.0 is 5 gigabits per second. So 16 divided by 2 would be 8. So we kind of could deduce that it's Gen 3. But I can't tell you, and I really don't know. So anyways, we got 3 ports of SATA Express here, and you see them, and I'm sure Gigabyte has something in store maybe later on for them, or maybe some hard drive company will make something for them, but who knows, right? But that's a ton of SATA ports. Do remember that you can use SATA Express for SATA or SATA Express, so they're pretty versatile. Anyways, moving on. Catching my breath a little bit, gonna slow down. We got 2 fan connectors here. These are system fan connectors, and yeah, pretty good spot for them. This looks like a PCH VRM, 2 phases, maybe they have separate rails, not sure about that. Anyways, these are your typical BIOS and single BIOS mode switch. So this is a selector switch. The 2 BIOSes here can be selected by going left or right. The single BIOS switch will disable the dual BIOS functionality to reduce overclocking recovery time, especially with base clock overclocking. There is this replaceable BIOS ROM cover here, and when you open this up, maybe you've seen this on other boards from other manufacturers, but you can open it up and it takes a BIOS ROM, but I'm told that this might just be an engineering sample feature, so it might not be on the final product. If it is, if it isn't, it's not really important. Anyways, you got the two M.2 slots, which support 32 gigabits per second. That's 4x, so all the fastest M.2 drives will be supported by this board, which is kind of like a first for Gigabyte for the high-end M.2. Anyways, oh yeah, Intel SSD 2, Samsung SSDs, M.2, PCIe. Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is a turbo B clock. The turbo B clock is basically, I think it's a clock buffer, or like a clock generator to improve base clock overclocking. I guess we'll see later on how that works. So we got a bunch of PCIe switches, and we got a PLX bridge under here. PX8747 would be my guess. Not really any competitors on the market. I don't know how many lanes are coming from the CPU, but I do know how many lanes come from the PX8747. So it would be okay to deduce that you probably got 4-way connectivity. Since we got 8 switches here, it'd probably go 8x from here goes here, and 8x from here goes here, just like other boards like from the Z97 generation series. There are 3 slots here. These are PCIe 1x, and they probably come from the PCH. Going over to the audio is pretty interesting. Now the audio has a bunch more of the OP amp slots. So this is for the front output, so this is new. The front output now uses OP amp. And then we have 2 JRC amps here that can be replaced. JRC stands for Japan Radio Company, and they're pretty high quality amplifiers. Soundcore 3D here with the cover, and a special DAC here, a digital to analog converter. And this board is certified up to 120 plus dB from Creative. And we can look over here. Creative certified Sound Blaster ZXRI 100dB plus SNR, so it should be pretty impressive, just like the sound card. There's also something else called Killer Double Shot Pro X3. That allows for the, I'll explain that later, but keep that in mind. Anyways, so Gigabyte has really done stuff to the audio section. You have a bunch of Nichicon gold capacitors here, and they should really help reduce any noise and filter out noise, yeah. Anyways, you also got some film capacitors here, and you can get a little glimpse of them. There are more Nichicon gold capacitors under here as well, and this all lights up. Let's go over the back panel, because this is like one of the last things we got to cover. So I'm told that there will be a wireless adapter here for wireless AC from Killer, and these will be next generation Killer NICs, 2 of them. And Killer Double Shot Pro will allow the allocation of high bandwidth stuff like gaming or YouTube to the fastest NIC, and then like a standard traffic to another NIC, the second slowest, and the slowest NIC will handle background traffic. Anyways, so that's about it. Oh, let's cover the back. This is an 8-layer PCB board. There are no backside VRM components, so that hints towards the IR power stages. There are also RGB LEDs here with 4 pins, so you can change their color, and there are a bunch here as well. So it should be a pretty impressive board. There's also USB Type-C and HDMI 2.0, which supports 4K. This USB Type-C is interesting because it comes from the Intel controller, and this Intel controller supports the 3rd generation of Thunderbolt, up to 40 gigabits per second, and DisplayPort 1.2. So I'll probably have a review of the board to come when it releases. Thanks for watching.